My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we're going to dig into why you need a degreed and certified health professional plus your doctor. And this is really about creating the team of people that you need around you and why our credentials not only matter, but also who does what. Why does one person own this side of your health and another person owns the other side of your health? And I'm going to weave this message not only for just the everyday woman who is wanting better health, who is really in tune with what's going on under the hood, meaning she understands her health from a deep level. But I also want to speak into a woman who is using the GLP-1s and why you have to have someone partnered with you and your doc. But not everybody's created equal, and your doctor doesn't know everything about nutrition and certainly not about the resistance training. And so let's dive into this. And why am I even, putting out such a strong claim? And here's the deal. I have absolutely the utmost respect for the individuals who have taken the time, the effort, the financial effort to become a physician. And I absolutely respect the field, but I also know that there is a limit to what we all study. I did not go to school to perform brain surgery. Therefore, I am not going to give you recommendations on what to do for an upcoming surgery or how I would do it. I'm also aware that when a physician goes through medical school, they do not receive the same education in nutrition, and they don't receive the same information and education in resistance training. So that's where I want to go here today, because I think we hold people to a certain standard and pedestal, and again, rightfully so. They've put the time, the effort, the finances in. But I also think in light of these GLP-1s and understanding that, hey, you have to partner these drugs with progressive resistance training and proper nutrition. And you can't just say, hey, go eat better. Hey, go work out. And then, here I am out there on the internet, and women are saying, oh, well, my doctor told me to eat better and to exercise, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm like, cool, what does that mean? And so I want to come here with a heart of service, and I want to make sure that you're getting the proper support and to better understand, where does your support need to come through? And so here's the deal. Most doctors receive very limited training in nutrition and even less, if any, in exercise science or progressive resistance training during medical school. So on average, a U.S. Medical student receives less than 25 hours of nutrition education over the 4 years of medical school. And often this is honestly where they focus. They focus on clinical deficiency, such as scurvy or anemia, and not lifestyle or therapeutic nutrition. And so here's the other piece of this is many med schools don't require any nutrition coursework at all. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your mind. And again, this isn't that maybe your doctor hasn't taken upon themselves to research and understand. Maybe they live a very healthy lifestyle. Therefore, they feel very competent and proficient in giving really good recommendations because they practice what they preach, or they've been clinical setting for a very long time and made recommendations and seen patient after patient after patient. So I don't want to say that there isn't the guys and gals out there doing the work to understand, but just remember, this isn't their background. This isn't what they went to school for. And here's the deal on progressive overload, muscle hypertrophy, and all structured strength training programs are not a standard part of medical curriculum. So exercise is touched super broad. It's often lumped together with physical activity and guidelines like, the 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week. And it's just really not detailed out in any kind of strategy or how to modify and change it. And so here's the deal. What does that mean for you as the patient? Well, most physicians are not trained to guide your patient on how to build muscle and how to build muscle efficiently, how to optimize maybe a training split, or how to periodize your workouts, how to adjust your macros based on your strength goals, or how to integrate exercise with hormonal health and aging. So this is where health coaches such as myself, who have a degree in exercise science minimum. A lot of us have our masters and things like that. And also our certifications are not created equal. The certifications that I personally possess had to have a 4-year degree attached with them. And that is not an industry standard, nor even close to the standard of today. A lot of people can take, X amount of hours, paid X amount of money, and poof, you are a certified personal trainer. Okay, cool. I had to have lots of hands-on. I had to have multiple hours in clinic. I mean, there was just a lot that went into it. And actually, believe it or not, an exercise science degree could actually be a pre-med if someone chose to go in that route. So health coaches truly bridge the gap between the clinical care and the lifestyle execution. The other thing, in your doctor's defense, they have 7-9 minutes to spend with you as a patient. And that's not even close to enough time to just talk about what's going on personally for you, let alone prescribing exercise, prescribing nutrition. And that's why you're given such broad and vague recommendations that honestly just sort of leave you going, I think I'm sort of doing this right. And so this is where I want to come in and help bridge the gap, because whether you're just looking for better health, you're wanting to lose weight, there is a proper person to put on your team, and it needs to be a degreed and certified professional who has multiple years of doing this, who has seen lots and lots of women in similar situations, who is going to understand what you need to do to, first and foremost, balance out your hormones, how to get your foundational pieces in place so that you are absolutely putting yourself into a really good spot to start losing fat, to get into that rapid fat loss. The problem is no one will identify or address with you what it's going to take to get your foundation firm. What is it going to take to help balance out your hormones? And hey, did you know that a lot of your hormones could be balanced if we simply adjusted your lifestyle? But again, that's not sexy. That's not exciting. That's not what gets clicks and likes and all the deal, right? Like, we want it to be more than what it is, when in reality, a lot of our lifestyles are not promoting the balancing of our hormones. And here's the deal. It's not your fault. It is not your fault that your hormones are out of whack, that you don't feel good, you're fatigued and brain fog, and weight keeps going on year after year. And here's the deal. You've got to take the ownership of like, hey, I can actually do something about it, but what, right? And that's where we need to fill in this gap, because it's not your fault, all the crap that's in our food. It's not your fault. The stuff that like our tomato that we get from the store does not have the same nutrient profile that it did in the 70s. Like, what the heck happened? That's a story for another day. But it's not your fault that you've been exposed to these plastics, to these chemicals, to, high levels of stress because of working conditions or, whatever has gone on in your life. It is not your fault. But it is your fault if we don't take personal responsibility to understanding what can you do. And we can't just simply go after HRT or, some other therapies to just solve the problem if we haven't done the lifestyle things first. And this is where I'm going to tell you most people miss doing these things long enough to actually see if they're working, if they're not, and if we need to make some tweaks. So we have to get our foundation firm, and that starts with balancing out our hormones. Then we can go into rapid fat loss, where we are going to help stoke the metabolism. We're going to help make sure that your metabolism is in a good place. This is where we want to get into proper resistance training. Proper resistance training is only going to be like so incredibly beneficial for every aging woman. I don't care if you're in perimenopause, if you're in menopause, it is essential for you to do. It is going to absolutely impact your insulin sensitivity, any insulin resistance that you may be experiencing. And the cool thing about this is when you do resistance training right, you completely change your body. But again, not sexy, not cool, and it's going to take time. And it's going to take doing the reps over and over and over again. And I'm not talking about the cute bar classes. I'm not talking about Pilates. I'm not talking about yoga. I'm not talking about Orange Theory. I'm not talking about F45. I mean, I could go on. Eat the Frog, core, whatever. Like, I am talking about you getting into the gym and doing some squats, doing some lunges, doing some deadlifts, doing some pressing motions, some bench press, some shoulders. And here's the thing. These workouts do not have to be exciting. And matter of fact, I would rather them be boring. And I would rather you do them day after day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And all of a sudden you look back a year, 2 years later, and you go, dang, my body is completely different. And it's because you put on good lean tissue, not huge Shira, not ginormous. I promise you that's not going to happen. If you want it, we can do things that will make that happen, but it's going to take a lot of work for a woman, but it can be done. But you're going to look back and be like, holy moly, I can't believe I did these mundane things that honestly weren't that exciting in the meantime, but I just did the work and I stayed disciplined to doing the boring things. And guess what? Over the time, it compounded. Your hormones got balanced, your metabolism's on fire. You can now eat. I'm not going to say anything you want. Obviously, you got to eat within calories and the right ranges of things. But if you're eating dense, really good foods, in your resistance training, you're at your goal weight, you can have the splurge. You can have the glass of wine. You can have some cheese and crackers or a charcuterie board, or, you can have the ice cream, but you got to get there first. And the problem is we just keep going into the instant gratification and I deserve this, when in reality, your body just wants real food and it wants to recover and it wants to get in a good homeostasis when it comes to our hormones and when it comes to our metabolism. And that's absolutely going to take having coaching and support, having behavior modifications, helping you pick out the points where it's like, okay, I thought I was eating well, but gosh, you really identified that that's probably not a healthy meal for me. Or, man, we keep ending up at this drive-through and I can't seem to get past why I keep doing the things that I'm doing with my health. For a lot of us, we just have to figure out the routine that works for you. So we start out by getting the foundation firm. You get your hormones balanced. You get through rapid fat loss. You've increased your metabolism. That metabolism is on fire and allowing you to have way more play with your nutrition and just life. And then the next step that we got to do is truly optimize everything under the hood. And so what I'm talking about is understanding all your labs and not just the standard ones that, again, I love your doctor, but they don't know what they don't know. And if they're coming in ordering a lab because they know how to treat that value for you, that's not good enough. And if we're just looking at, for example, total cholesterol, HDL, LDL, triglycerides, and all of a sudden we see a elevated LDL and we're throwing a statin at you, listen, that is not okay. That is not where we're at in today's science, today's technology, and you need to be asking your doctor for some APO-B testing, APO-A. Those are going to be more beneficial for you. They also need to look at you from a whole perspective. Another side of this that no one even talks about is your insulin. How come we don't test on normal tests for insulin? So these are just things that until you know this, until you partner with the right health professional with your doctor, you don't know that you need to understand all of these numbers to truly optimize and to truly, age in reverse. And that's probably been one of the neatest things for myself personally is, being into this process about 6 months now at the point of this recording. And I can tell you those first 3 months were kind of tough for me. It was tough to really figure out. It was tough for me to see how high my cortisol was. It was really hard for me to see that my hormones were basically non-existent and I had no clue how I was going to respond going off birth control that I had been on forever. I mean, and every doctor told me it was fine until my functional doctor was like, hey, we probably should get you off of this. And I was like, okay. And we talked through it and we better understood what my goals were and what I wanted to see. And she said, hey, it could take us a year to get your hormones in a good place. But the really cool thing is going into this relatively healthy, it was awesome to see how quickly my hormones balanced. But I was like, oh, there they are. Oh, haven't had these feelings in a minute, and not in a bad way, but I was basically in menopause, so I had no feelings. So anyways, I hope you guys are laughing, but these are just things that until you talk with someone, I had been told every year at my I can't speak, at my OBGYN appointment that, hey, it's all good. Just keep taking the birth control. If it's working, let's not change it. And no one had, any idea to say, hey girl, you probably don't want to be doing that. And here's the reasons why. The other things that I'm leaning into heavy is my cholesterol. My cholesterol has always been by standards high, and it's always been something that everyone in my family has gone on a statin. And I'd been very adverse to going on a statin just with all of the side effects. And, it's just it's not good from a long-term perspective, but yet that's what we do in standard care is you have an elevated LDL, you get a statin. And what's been cool is better understanding my APO-B, which is actually a number that I need to be tracking even more, but understanding my insulin is actually in a phenomenal place. And she goes, obviously, with your resistance training and the way that you guys eat, this is in a phenomenal level. And this is why we're going to watch everything from a balancing act to really understand what's normal for me. So I share all of this because we have to put together the right partners. And if you're not certain whether or not you're doing the right resistance training, or you're not quite sure if the nutrition is supporting your desired goals, it's important to hire a coach like me, or at minimum, just jump on my calendar and let's chat a little bit more, because it's important for you to understand what it's going to be like to work with someone who is highly trained and highly skilled in this, who has been doing this almost 2 decades with women. And I partner with your doctor. But it's unfair to say that your doctor can prescribe you the progressive resistance training. First off, none of them have that education. Even if they like fitness, I promise you they've hired hopefully a really good personal trainer. They've taken a lot of good notes. But again, that is actually part of my curriculum and my schoolwork, to understand how to put this together. And I know sometimes we, think these workouts look simple and easy. There's actually a lot that goes into it, considering your health history, your goals, where you're currently starting, what you have access to, and quite frankly, where you want to go. What's really cool, and I think a lot of women don't even realize this, is once you lose the weight, your hormones are balanced, your metabolism's in a good spot, you get to be really picky on how you want things to look, and you can manipulate the body. And it's actually just a really fun process once we get you there. So again, this was not to put down any physicians or anything. Again, I have nothing but the respect, but I want you to know where the partnership needs to be, where the lines need to be drawn. And I am very, very quick to say to someone, hey, you need to consult your doctor on this. Hey, you need to talk to your doctor on this or that, because it's so important. Those are not the things that I have privy to. I didn't go to school for, but I think it's a disservice for our doctors to say, oh, you just need to eat better, and yeah, you need to go exercise, go to the YMCA, or yeah, go get in those fitness classes. That is not going to solve your problems, especially if you're on a GLP-1 and you actually need to really focus in on preserving and, if anything, adding to that lean tissue, which can be done. We've done this with multiple clients now, better understanding these drugs and understanding how we can work together. So if you have any questions, if you need any support, if you're curious what it looks like to work with a coach, just hit me up on any social media. It is Arin, spelled A-R-I-N, and Lindauer, L-I-N-D-A-U-E-R, and you're welcome to hit me up on any social media. All right, take care.